Okay, cool. So next up, we have Marina. So from the bio here, we've got so Marina has two decades of experience in working on e-commerce, ranging from the beginnings of Yahoo stores all the way to starting her own agency. She's got a lot of experience to draw from. Today, well, yeah, I'll start again. My goodness, navigation on stores is really important, and good navigation is vital. Marina is going to draw on her experiences and talk to us about great building a great site navigational experience. Sorry, butchered that intro. That's fine. Marina, do you want to screen share?
Yes, for sure. Um, 1 second. Um, okay. Okay, so my name is Marina, like Andrew said, and I am a senior dev and a CEO at MAK Digital. Our company actually won Partner of the Year in 2020, and for the past 2 years, we've been a finalist in the headless builds. I'm definitely developer first, and then navigation. The most important thing that you can create for the website, I feel, is navigation. It's a map. That's how customer figures out where to go, and a bad navigation can make or break a business. We're obviously talking about BigCommerce, so I want to point out the things that I see all the time that a lot of other developers make when it comes to creating and building navigation using Stencil. First thing first is really understanding the structure of how Stencil technology is built. I created this sandbox for the demonstration purposes and set up some task categories. And if you look here, this is essentially a cornerstone theme that automatically gets loaded as soon as you create a sandbox. And I'm going to put a link into the chat so anybody can basically load it on their browsers right now. This is out of the box. Cornerstone is a great theme to learn on if you're just starting with BigCommerce, if you're a developer and done lots of other things, but BigCommerce is something new for you. Cornerstone is basically something that BigCommerce releases. It's very basic as far as the visual. However, they try to load it with a whole bunch of different features. So essentially, a developer can learn and see best practices. The latest version is loaded with the best practices for accessibility, and that's something that a lot of developers do tend to not paying attention to. And it's something that whatever you're creating a menu, these days you always have to think about accessibility. It's a must today, so not something that you would want to ignore. When you load Cornerstone and look at the way how they have their mega navigation, it's basically an example of what you essentially can do. And again, they load it with the accessibility features and events and presentation, which is not something that I would actually recommend if you were to build your navigation, if you were doing your mega navigation. What I would consider one of the examples I wanted to bring up for the mega navigation that I would say is a good example and something that we would want to kind of model today is a website, nestnewark.com. I think it was built by Trille's agency. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but what they have is a very nicely laid out hover over event. The law of navigation: the less clicks, the better. So you hovering over, you right away see your information. If you click, you actually go into the category. it lays out nicely. It responds to my mouse. It stays, and the presentation is very pleasant. They have category images displaying, and then they have another version where they have kind of like these promotional banners. Now again, number one mistake that I've seen, and I've taken apart a lot of different themes created by the developers, and this is something that I see over and over again, is that a developer would essentially sets up a sandbox with BigCommerce, or sometimes just goes in and starts working on a live site. And then what they do is they start editing themes right from the theme editor. So right here, you can go into the theme and you can edit theme files. And this is a huge no-no. Do not do that. Take your time, learn the architecture, actually set it up on your local machine, figure out how things work. You are not doing any you are mistreating your customer, and you also basically not progressing your skills. I can't tell you how many times we had to adjust and change things on themes like that. And once you download this theme, the whole thing just falls apart and blows up, because they didn't go through the actual process of compiling it. And essentially, it's just a junk code. Assuming you actually learn, there's, I'm going to also post a link for the, this is a BigCommerce link on, put it in the chat, where to properly install your environment. So very important, learn it, take time, go through it. Do not take shortcuts, because at the end it's gonna end up being more work for you. The next thing that I've seen developers do is, I don't know if they actually set it up on their local environment or not, but not learning the actual architecture of the themes. And instead of actually going through the system and figuring out how things are being done, essentially just attaching some sort of UI libraries like jQuery or something else, and stopping propagations on built-in events, and then writing code on top of what's there. Terrible idea. You are basically clunking up your system with the useless code. Essentially, the theme itself already has a UI libraries in it, so you're just in a lot of cases repeating the same libraries over and over again, which essentially really slows down the load of the site. So I set up a Cornerstone theme on my computer, and I have it currently running on my local machine. So here's a link for my actual environment running on my computer. Now, like I said, here it is using a click events, and right now what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of go through really quickly, and I'll show you how to work through this mega navigation and make it more pleasant in a pretty quick time. As long as you know the system, you learn it, you can actually accomplish things really quickly and get something for your client that's really pleasant to see and user-friendly. Okay, so first thing first is, like I said, you have to learn the structure of your theme, and this is cornerstone. If you're working with a different theme, if you, let's say, bought something and you want to modify it, from everything I've seen, most of the themes essentially were really created from cornerstone as the starter. So a lot of them have very similar structure. So it's kind of like, if you learn cornerstone, you're gonna be fine with anything else, because it's almost like you take this as a base and then you extend it and build on top of it. So our and I'm going to show you an example of I showed you example of a good site. This one is done very nicely. It behaves nicely on my navigation attempt as a customer. It also does not overwhelm you with the information. This is probably a third mistake that I see people do when they creating mega menus. It's almost like this idea that if I'm creating mega menu, it has to be mega. It does not have to be mega. You have to have in your mind a rule of 3 clicks. 3 clicks is great, maybe 4, but please do not go insane with the presenting, everything you can think of. So here's an example of a site I found that I would say it's just a terrible experience. So they use Cornerstone. They have this clicking, which I guess this is one of the examples where they try to adjust the theme, but didn't take their time to learn it. So they just wrote a bunch of junk on top. So you can see how it behaves. It has like these click slash hover events that like produce this like sometimes it like clicks, sometimes, but it produces this like a almost a flash-like presentation, and pretty annoying, I would say, for a customer to see something like this. This specific navigation, again, it overwhelms you with the insane amount of information. The other thing is obviously is finding that middle center between you and a customer. If you know best practices and your customer says no, I wanna have this craziness. It's obviously customer is always right, but let's face it, the customer is not always right. I mean, that's why they hire you, so you give them your knowledge and hopefully talk them into what really matters. And obviously this company did not do their job, because this is just an overwhelming amount of information, and you do not want to do this. Again, a big difference between this and this. Just this gives me like a headache from just looking at it. Now, what they didn't do is go ahead and learn the system in Cornerstone. It's pretty easy. You figure out where things are. You find your GS file. The structure of the Cornerstone is pretty self-explanatory. You have your assets. You have your locales. You have your metadata. You have your and you have your templates. I mean, those are your main working folder structure. In templates, you have your common folder, and that's where your header, and that's where you can figure out where your navigation is. In assets, you have your GS folder, and that's where you figure out where your working files responsible for navigation. So to first thing first, to modify how your events are working, you find your GS file, and essentially you just find where the event is coming from, and you modify it so the clicking does not happen on your desktop version of your site. The navigation list.html, that's the file that's responsible for the actual presentation of the menu. That's the file that builds your navigation. Now, what I do see quite a lot is, again, developers not really learning the system, and they would use an additional JavaScript to do things like this, to load these images, and actually learning about what objects you have available makes a huge difference. So with the cornerstone and what BigCommerce gives us as available data, we can easily load images for the categories, and essentially make it presentable and there pretty easily. I wanted to go kind of like a line by line, but I'm afraid I'm just not gonna have enough time. So what I'm gonna do right now is actually really quickly adjust my files with the already pre-written code that I did. So then we can see how it would work and how it would look. And then instead of me typing it, I can just show you what it's doing and kind of explain how I did it. And what I'm gonna do so everybody can see it, I'm actually going to switch theme here to the one that I changed. So you can see what I did. So this is the modified version, and I kind of made it look like the site that I decided to use as an example. So I kind of stole their images. I'm sorry, Trillies, how to present, for stealing your images and using it as a learning session. But essentially, that's what I did here. Now, how are we doing it? Learn all the available objects that you have with each object again. So if you're working with the categories, go through the BigCommerce developer wiki. It's actually really good. It's an excellently written document. I've worked with the multiple platforms, and I can't tell you how many platforms make it. When they write their documentation, it's almost like it's for aliens. This one is done extremely well, so pretty easy to see, and you can easily find exactly what you need, and just a really well done documentation. Another thing that I would really point out, and this is something that a lot of developers don't know, is if I am, let's say, on my category page, or any page that matters, working of my local, I can actually add this prefix to my URL, and that will produce an actual JSON of everything I have available to me, which makes it very easy for me to actually see everything I have. So if you don't feel like going through the documentation and reading it, this is a great thing to use, because this right away gives you everything you have available, and you know how to pull it. Now, another thing that I see all the time is that, okay, that's not my development, is people not knowing, not being able to figure out how to insert these different banners or some sort of promotions, and like essentially make it slightly different. And make it more interactive, but at the same time not make it where customer has to mess around with the HTML. And that I've seen a lot. I do see this is happening with so many different stores where a good example would be this website. The way they have it is this mega navigation is actually these huge HTML chunks that a customer has to go in and herself adjust it, which is insane because I do see that a lot. And customers, a lot of them, kind of like they don't know HTML. They try to learn it, but they mess things up, and then the whole thing blows up, and they call you in panic. They don't back things up. Just don't do this. It needs to be dynamic. You do not have your customers mess with HTML. You can really use some creative thinking and make it so it's actually dynamic and easily manageable by the customers without them touching code. So let's say we have this menu where, so for these ones, it's pretty easy. Those are basically category images. Now, I do have to mention if, I'm sorry, jumping around, my first time doing this, I apologize if I'm a little bit all over the place, but let's say we have this type of navigation, and then we have this image here. But if I go into my candles category, the image is completely different. And that's actually something that I do see where other developers just come up with the craziest things of how they're doing it. Where there's really you can do it a lot more simpler without going nuts with like inserting some insane JavaScripts that change images and reloads them. I mean, that's like I see it all the time, putting these scripts on the pages, just unnecessary. So my recommendation number one, and that's something that like that's my go-to, is use metadata fields with BigCommerce. You can essentially extend any object with additional information and easily use it for whatever purposes you need. What I also recommend is because BigCommerce by itself does not give you access to modify this data, the Space 48 metadata manager is an absolutely excellent app. It is inexpensive. It is very easy to use. And honestly, it allows you to do whatever the heck you want with your mega navigation. Sometimes, I mean, in like 99% of cases, I don't have any of our customers giving us a pushback on getting this app. But every once in a while, you do get somebody who doesn't want to do it, and we'll address that case next. But 99.9% get that app, and to teach them how to use it, it's so I loaded the app on my sandbox. So here's my app, and I'm gonna get a million emails from them asking me to pay for it. So here's my app, and I created my category object here, where I have my wellness collection. And in my wellness collection, I added this this object where it's a category banner. What I did essentially is uploaded an image through image manager, and I do tend to always get lost in this navigation. So I uploaded an image through my image manager, and then in my app, I'm just creating my pointers, showing, attaching the image path that I attached. And then what you have to do is essentially specify that this data is available through the GraphQL. And then what you do from that point is when you're creating your mega navigation, when you are on that object, you essentially call that specific metadata pointer, depending on what key you give it, and what I usually do is if I want it to look this way, my key is going to have specific like a keyword for me to check, and that would let me know like how I want it to behave. If I wanted to, be clickable and do some other extra openings, that would essentially tell me what I'm doing with this next. Absolutely a must-have app, and quite honestly, this just allows you to do whatever the heck you want. You do have to really take your time and learn all the Stencil handlebars. And
sorry to interrupt the free advertising there, Marina. In the interest of time, we're going to have to wrap up soon, if that's okay. If you could, in the next couple of minutes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I can talk about this stuff forever. I'm gonna try to wrap this up. I wanted to show you another way of doing it, but just sticking with this way is honestly I would say the best way of handling it. And as a developer, knowing about this tool, you'll be able to do whatever the heck you want with your mega navigation. And in my example here, as you can see, I'm having my drop down, but if I go to this category, I have a completely different image, which again I stole from that website. Just one thing that I do also want to point out that I see people do all the time, and I think is a very important thing to mention. When you're creating mega navigation, like I said, overloading customer with a huge amount of data is a big no-no. But the other thing is essentially using the same navigation for your mega navigation and for your mobile device. You obviously always have to think about mobile. In a corner store example, they are reusing the same navigation. It's the same thing. But in your mobile navigation, you do want to go down all of your levels. You don't have a lot of space, so you do want to represent everything. In your desktop, you want to limit it to just a couple clicks in. Now, how do you handle this? Obviously, you would want to create two different ones, but that creates a problem because obviously it's a load time, and the other thing that you always have to think about is the actual SEO consequences. The measuring tool for the SEO is actually looks into your DOM size, and obviously ANS here is not ranking too well because it has a huge amount of elements. They also reusing this thing on mobile and desktop, which just creates a really clunky experience. So if you're a more senior developer, my recommendation would be, and assuming you have learned the system, is get React library loaded into your system and actually create a mobile navigation out of the React component that is basically being generated on your click events. The whole HTML is not being read and it's not being loaded on an actual on load event, you are saving on the processing. The React component that you can integrate within the Stencil works great, and we've been using it for multiple things. Here's an example of the site that we did that uses it. Put it in the chat. And so this navigation is your regular navigation, but this is basically your React component. And if you look at the speed scores, we're 85 on mobile. We're actually working right now on pulling them higher. And on desktop, we're almost at 100, and there's no complaints about it down because you are being cautious on how you having your data delivered. So always think about these things. Think presentation. Think less is more, and make it as clear as possible. And definitely learn the system. Don't just if you're coming from Magento, or if you're coming from Shopify, or maybe Shopify not a good example. It's kind of a I don't know, something else, Evolution. Don't assume that you've done this, you'll be able to do this quickly with just adjusting some files. You do need to put your time in, and once you do, you get the benefits of actually doing things right and having your customer happy.